Hey, good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Ferris. I'm a senior director at TPMA. We're so happy to have you joining us for our LinkedIn Live event. So this is a new platform for us, but we're excited for having folks from around the United States involved in this discussion. It's a really important one. So we are talking with folks from the great state of Ohio about their work in workforce development focused on Intel. So the title is Lessons from Ohio, Key Steps to Overcoming the Semiconductor Talent Shortage. That's a lot. So just to set the stage, Intel announced in January 2022 a $20 billion investment. They're building two fab plants east of Columbus, Ohio. Estimated that there'll be around 3,000 jobs. Intel has committed between $17 and $18 million to focus on workforce development programs. And so we have two individuals who are actively involved in those efforts right now. I'll introduce Courtney Tenover. She is with Lorain County Community College, which is in Northeast Ohio. And Courtney is a program developer and has been actively involved in shaping what types of training programs are available and some of the outreach efforts for providing jobs for Intel and the suppliers within that ecosystem. Additionally, I will introduce Scott McLemore. Scott is an executive in residence at Columbus State Community College in Columbus, Ohio. Before he was at Columbus State, he had a long career at American Honda Motor Company in Marysville, Ohio. So brings a lot of industry knowledge to this discussion. So thank you again for joining. Thank you, Courtney and Scott. I'm going to kick it off with my first question. What are these jobs? There's a lot of just discussion about semiconductors and, big number, 3,000. But what are the jobs that Intel's actually going to be hiring for? Scott, would you like to kick it off?
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan. And thanks to TPMA for inviting Courtney and me to this discussion. These jobs, that's been a question that I know Courtney and I were working on, and our teams are working on with Intel since January of 22, as you mentioned, and our engagement with them. A lot of people think that these are IT jobs, and they're really manufacturing jobs, right? They're equipment technician jobs. So our focus has been on developing individuals who can maintain the equipment within the fabs that are used to make the chips. And a lot of the skill set, people would be surprised, a lot of the skills that our colleges have been focusing on developing are skill sets that are used in the automotive industry, that are used in other advanced manufacturing companies, such as hydraulics, pneumatics, understanding of electrical systems. So those competencies are all competencies that our programs, for the most part, our programs both at Columbus State and at Lorain and other community colleges have in place already with our engineering technology programs. There are a few areas that are specific to the industry where they have equipment such as vacuum technology that they use in terms of manufacturing the chips. But for the most part, the skill sets are around those industrial maintenance roles.
Yeah, and I would just add where Intel, the additional piece is it's the industrial maintenance role, but being in a bunny suit in a clean room. So being able to know what it's like to maybe wear a little more, a mask and gloves and the bunny suit while you're doing this work. So just getting people to understand there's that piece, but of course there's jobs outside of the clean room as well.
Scott, you mentioned just the transferability of some skills from other industries, particularly in manufacturing, and understanding there's programs that are in place right now. Talk a little bit about how community colleges have shifted and tried to customize those programs out. And I think one thing that pops up a lot with workforce professionals is about industry recognized credentials. So anything that's on that path as well could be beneficial for our listeners.
Yeah, I think where community colleges have become more and more effective at revising and tailoring our programs is really sitting down with the employers and the companies themselves and understanding clearly what is an individual going to do in that role. So it's back a bit to your first question: what are these roles? And I know we had through the one of the grants that in that $18 million that was provided, we had a statewide faculty team made up of members from about 5 different colleges. Lorain and Columbus State were 2 of those colleges, but those faculty members met with Intel subject matter experts to understand specifically what the role is and then what those competencies are. So I think it really starts there in terms of understanding the specifics of what's in a particular role. And then as our colleges meet with our regional industry partners, we can then begin to either build out curriculum or revise the curriculum in the way that we've done with Intel and the semiconductor industry. I know that for us at Columbus State, we're starting with really 3 relevant programs within our engineering technology program: mechanical engineering technology, electrical engineering technology, and then electromechanical engineering technology. That last one is one in which it provides a foundational background across those disciplines, but then adds the component of the specifics for semiconductor. So as Courtney mentioned, getting in a bunny suit, being able to work in a bunny suit. The courses that we added were manufacturing fundamentals, semiconductor 101. So what is the semiconductor industry? How does it feel to be in a bunny suit and to work in a bunny suit? What is a clean room, like as she mentioned? And then the other one is that vacuum systems technology program, or course, that's part of that program. So I think, again, the ability for a college to meet with its employer partner, understand what those competencies are, and if it's a credential that that they find is a certificate or a credential they find is important, they'll let you know about that. And then if you want to, you can embed that into your curriculum. I don't know, Courtney.
Yeah, I can add. I think the Columbus State and Ohio Association of Community Colleges have done a great job of keeping the subject matter experts at the table from day one, which is very effective when building curriculum. So you know that the students walking out with these classes and certificates are getting exactly what the employer wants. And so they've built these 3 courses that are available for anyone to use. They're available through Ohio Link. And so Lorain County Community College has been able to embed these 3 courses into a clean room semiconductor 1-year certificate. And so we took courses from our industrial maintenance degree and infused these 3 classes into that to develop this 1-year certificate. So it gives students those skills they need, and ideally shorten the time of training for Intel when students would go, move to Intel for jobs. And then we're able to take these 3 courses and share them with our partners under our grant, and they can infuse these courses into the different programs that they're creating.
Yeah, really helpful background. And one thing that you see is just the timeline for projects. So construction's going on, major construction site. So when are the jobs actually going to be real? So how have you kind of approached that? I think understanding maybe like what work-based learning experiences are in place. How has Intel looked at that for what they're doing at their new facility in Ohio?
Courtney, do you want to talk about what you're leading at Lorain? I think it's very relevant.
So almost 8 years ago, Lorain County Community College, we have a microelectronics degree program. So dealing with printed circuit boards, the design, you're in the clean room, soldering pieces on the board. And so within that program, we actually modeled an earn and learn program and modeled it after the work Columbus State was doing with Honda. And so the goal was to connect students to jobs within their field early on in the program. So because of these models that Columbus State and Lorain County Community College have, we've partnered with Intel to pilot an internship program. And so what we're doing is our students are currently, we had info sessions held with Intel, and they're interviewing with Intel now for internships starting in May of 2024 in their Arizona plant. So the goal is to get these students out in Arizona, getting them trained now and exposed and excited about Intel. So when it's time for the Columbus plant to be up and running, they have the opportunity to then come back to Ohio. And this is just the first initial pilot. So taking the best practices from that and continuing to replicate it and hoping to replicate with other schools as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think knowing that Intel, and it sounds like they're making that investment themselves, which is very, very cool. I think the other thing that we hear about is the greater supplier ecosystem, knowing that Intel is going to have a lot of suppliers that are going to feed into that facility, those plants. How has that discussion evolved with employers that are looking for getting into the semiconductor industry, and really what they can do to meet their workforce needs?
Yeah, so I'll start with this. Because we're in Northeast Ohio, so we're about 2.5 hours away from where the plant will be in Columbus. We've really focused on the supply chain. So we are, in our grant, we're one of 11 partners. So we're all up in Northeast Ohio. We know our focus needs to be on that supply chain. So we've partnered with Team Neo up in Northeast Ohio. So they're the Northeast Ohio Jobs Ohio affiliate. And they've been assisting us to outreach to these suppliers, understand what the supply chain is and understand their needs. So then we can create a similar earn and learn program to address those needs and get students into jobs with the suppliers. And so it's been a lot of learning for me in the last year of who this supply chain is, because there's a lot of branches that come out of it, because you have, the equipment manufacturers, but then you have those companies that make the chemicals and then make the equipment to hold the chemicals, and the supply chain is huge. And so there's a lot of talent that has the opportunity to come to Ohio. So I think for those that may be outside of Ohio or in Ohio, getting to your community college, if it's not Columbus State or Lorain, and letting us know who you are, what your needs are, and working with the workforce development team to address those needs.
Yeah, and I would add that as this work continues, the collaboration continues to evolve, Jonathan. So both Lorain Community College, both Lorain County Community College and Columbus State Community College are part of a larger network. That's the Midwest Semiconductor Network. It's a multi-state consortium, and we've been introduced to potential suppliers or those that are already in the ecosystem in other locations. Some that have committed to Ohio, but others that could be here eventually. So as we continue to collaborate, we, as Courtney said, we're open and willing to work with those that are going to be in our regions, across the state. So we're partnered with Jobs Ohio and other economic development entities that are, as they can, provide us with that information so that we can, begin and those engagements.
Yeah, it's so important to have that collaboration in place. And I think what you mentioned about a multi-state entity that's working together is really important. It seems like past month there's been a new innovation hub or hydrogen hub, just a lot of hubs going on. It's very exciting looking at the amount of investment that's being put in by the federal government, the Economic Development Administration, and some of the programs that are coming out from the U.S. Department of Labor. So knowing that you have $18 million from the state, how are you envisioning connecting with some of those larger efforts? You mentioned one, but just trying to understand for a lot of our listeners, they might be seeing grants that were just received and trying to figure out what to do to kind of maybe braid their funding together, extend their dollars out even further.
Courtney, do you want to?
Yeah,
You
I was
wanna
going to
start
just
yet?
mention, I'll start and then you can add.
All right.
So also at Lorraine, we lead what is called Ohio TechNet. So it's a statewide consortium of over 40 community colleges, universities, and career tech centers. And the goal is to accelerate innovation to meet these manufacturing needs. So Ohio TechNet tries to be at the table in all these conversations. We've led several Department of Labor, Department of Defense grants, and trying to be at the table with all these groups, along with Ohio Manufacturers Association. There's a lot of entities involved in Ohio, and so we're trying to stay at the table with everyone. So when these opportunities do come up, if it's a company receiving a grant, we can offer the best technical assistance to help them with that, and also be at the table in those grants to bring the money to Ohio.
Yeah, the Ohio TechNet has been a great consortium opportunity for Columbus State and others. I was familiar with it before I came into this role when I was with Honda, as Courtney mentioned, OMA. So I think at the state level, for us, we're very fortunate in Ohio to have a collaboration that was set in place probably 10 years ago to start with it in terms of conceptually, and then just built out through OMA and what's known as the OMWP, the Ohio Manufacturing Workforce Partnership. So in that collaboration, you have existing manufacturers that run industry sector partnerships throughout the state in their particular regions, which include those educational entities, workforce development entities, economic development entities, and community support services, et cetera. And Ohio's, as Courtney mentioned, has done a great job of obtaining those grants. So it's really that infrastructure and framework is in place. And for us in the OSCN, the Ohio Semiconductor Collaboration Network, we've plugged into that. And I think you're seeing now with all of these investments, a forum in which people can learn about the grant opportunities, maybe in a much more effective way than, say, 5 years ago, in large part, again, through, because of Ohio TechNet. But also, I think because of I want to give some credit to the governor and lieutenant governor and the Ohio Workforce, the Office of Workforce Transformation, led by Lieutenant Governor and Eric Leach. There's a lot of synergistic work that's happening across the state regarding advanced technology industry. So, as electric vehicle, for example, gets built out, and we've got broadband being built out, you have the same people, to Courtney's point, at the table consistently, where we can identify a North Star and everyone work towards those same goals, and not, try not to reinvent the wheel, each time a new announcement happens.
Yeah, and that's something that I will note that Ohio does very well is all these emerging areas. They have these ways to bring people together, but it all seems coordinated. It's not kind of over here and over there. So that's really cool of what the state has done with some of the investments, but also just these groups and really the commitment of industry moving forward. So I have two more questions, but I do want to let our listeners know if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we can field your questions as we move forward. What about recruitment? So individuals for these positions can come from a lot of different areas. You could have students who are leaving high school and then going into a post-secondary program. You could have individuals who want to change a career, or somebody who's out of work that is looking to get back into work. So knowing where things are at right now, what have been ways that you've marketed to those target audiences? And Courtney, maybe you could start.
Yeah, I can start. So we've done a lot, and happy to give more details if I don't give too many details now. But we learned early on in our microelectronics degree that students won't go into a program if they don't see themselves in manufacturing and see what it is and see what they can do. So we really try and get K through 12 to people who, the age of 70, really in the lab, hands-on, and see what it's all about and get them excited for it. So we've done a lot of work at the K through 12 level with a program called Flex Factor. So it's a program going into the classroom, getting students to do a real life project, hands-on, designing it through the business side and then presenting to a panel. And so looking at programs like that and infusing semiconductor pieces to it to show them, yes, you can do it, and this is what it is. We also have programs to attract women into the field so they can see that it is a job they're able to do. We have a specific program called Wise Pathways. So it reaches women where they are who may not already be in the community college pipeline, and getting them to do various boot camps. So for example, we held a boot camp over the summer. It was 2 days. We got these women from a community-based organization in front of Intel employees, in front of current students, female students. We got them get their resume updated in front of our advisors. And then we actually had them go through a 5-hour clean room boot camp so they could see that it was exciting, what it's about, and here's the jobs in the field. So we're really trying to do a lot of hands-on experiences. I know the Semi Foundation has kits that you can order. So K through 12 and other people can order these kits and get people excited. So I think from our, we've done info sessions. So everything and anything that we can do to spread the word and get people excited about the field and let them know what it is.
And from Columbus State's perspective, we're actually taking some lessons and in partnership with Lorain County Community College. The Flex Factor is one of those. So as they rolled that out, Columbus State is one of the institutions that has taken that and try to build it out here in Central Ohio. So that's one that we've taken the lead we've taken the opportunity to partner with Lorain in that way and implement that. Another is working with Jobs Ohio to leverage social media and get out into our communities and make sure that they're aware of these programs. The one-year certificate, which Courtney and I talked about a little bit, is one that we did design with Intel specifically, which then stacks into a 2-year associate's degree. So we're making sure, and we just launched that at Columbus State, or will launch it, in the spring of 24. So we're offering coursework towards that this autumn semester, and then we'll have the full certificate launched in the spring. That stacks into our our associate's degree, which again, we're wanting to make sure that there's a lot of awareness around that. We recently held an engineering technology day on campus with, I want to say about 10 of our advanced manufacturing employers. Intel was one of those. And we had both information sessions for high school students in the morning, in the first half of the day, as well as a career fair style engagement opportunity. And then in the evening, we offered that same opportunity for adults. So in addition to Intel, we had Honda and Worthington Industries and several manufacturers that are already here, but also letting them know about what's coming, Amgen in biotech, et cetera. So we're looking for additional ways. The Wise Pathways is one that Columbus State, again, what Lorain has launched there in the Northeast. We think that is a very effective way to reach women. And that's, one of the underrepresented groups that we want to make sure we reach going forward for these pathways and programs into semiconductor. Oh, sorry, Jonathan. And I just remembered, we're using VR technology. So
wow. Okay.
We're going in, our K-12 partnership team is going into classrooms and allowing them to experience what it's like virtually to be inside a clean room, and what's a quality engineer or technician do in that. So they put on the bunny suit virtually. They're in the clean room. So again, to what Courtney's talking about in terms of seeing it and things like that, we want to make sure that we're providing some experiences where they can, virtually get in, but also have them speak and meet with people that look like them, that are from the industry. So We had, for example, we had women giving the presentations during the engineering technology day, and just as diverse a group as we could get, so that they could, understand that these opportunities are there for everyone.
Yeah, and I'll add too, Intel has done a wonderful job of, or their team has done supplying employees to come speak at different events, being able to talk to technicians so students can hear from other technicians what it's like to work there. So they've been a great partner through all of this, and so appreciative of all the employees that have been at the table with us to do this.
Yeah, so just a lot of different approaches there, but it seems like knowing the different types of talent you could pull, or just different pipelines that you have, you're really trying to approach them in a variety of different ways. So we've had a lot of like positives, all the fun things that are happening, and it's great. Is there something that's happened over the past, roughly 2 years that you look at and you never would have thought it would have popped up? Really kind of like a obstacle or even a challenge that you faced as you've been going down this path of trying to understand how to best meet the needs of Intel in the semiconductor industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think our biggest challenge that has also been a great opportunity is everyone started with kind of the same objective. So you had a lot of people doing the same thing. So I think it's been a year of trying things and then realizing someone else may be doing it and partnering with them, so we're not duplicating the work. And Intel has done a great job of continuously getting the teams together to make sure that we're not duplicating the work, or multiple people are trying to gather data when really who's the best expert to be doing that. So I think the first year has just been making sure we're not duplicating any of the work and coming together as a state and not just little pockets to do this work.
Yeah, and Jonathan, I'll add. I'm new to education. I've been in this role for a year now with the college, and my role at Columbus State is really to help with building out advanced manufacturing pathways. So as we bring industry to the table and work on things like curriculum and all the things that Courtney and I have talked about. There was this time period in which those that weren't directly involved were wanting to know what's going on. So it was a little challenging, and I think speak specifically to K-12. So they were really wanting to know what these opportunities are going to be so that they can best prepare. And we weren't, because we had not met with Intel and understood ourselves and determined what that curriculum was. It was very difficult for us to partner with them at that time, over this last year, and really let them know, because quite honestly, we were figuring it out ourselves. we did some research, but that research going into working with Intel wasn't exactly right. And some of that is because of what they're going to do here in Ohio is going to be a little different than what they've done in Oregon and Arizona. So it's just the nature of the evolution of this field, and I think now we're able to more appropriately and effectively engage with our K-12 partners and our Ohio Technical Center. So I think that's something that's evolved, and those institutions and districts appreciate the work that's been done, and now we're ready to really connect those pathways into secondary education.
And one other thing I thought of was faculty development. So as we build this pipeline and grow more students, we have to make sure we're having enough faculty to teach the courses, and then that they're educated enough to be able to teach it. So this year we've been, and continuing into the year 2, focusing on faculty development. So to make sure that as much as we're training the students to go work, that we're also training the faculty. And so Columbus State has had a great faculty development program. We've gotten teachers into our clean room, and just making sure that we're looking at equipment and lab space, faculty, and the talent pipeline all at once.
And I will say that the collaboration there has been amazing. It's a great point that Courtney's making, and I think we're going to continue to be challenged with that. at the post-secondary level, definitely. But then I just mentioned K-12 and trying to find individuals that can provide instruction on the technical side there, whether it's a CTE or comprehensive high school. We don't have a lot of those individuals out there. And if they do exist, they're already in industry. Mm-hmm. So I just want to give a shout out to Lorraine for working so closely with us and allowing us to leverage their faculty and their clean room facilities to be able to really make this an effective professional development opportunity in the state. Otherwise, we're sending people to New Mexico, we're sending people to Pennsylvania, right? And that's one great asset that we have relative to the semiconductor industry in Lorraine. So thanks to Courtney and that team there for that.
Yeah, I think just you hit upon a couple areas that I think were of interest, but just faculty development, which, understanding that, and it continues to be a challenge with current technical education, CTE, trying to have a pipeline of individuals that could fit into that. But, interesting way. I mean, having a clean room that you can train in, that's such an asset. And I think one other thing is just knowing that you're connecting that with VR technology as well, which is very cool to see. So I will ask listeners if they have any final questions. I feel like this has been a very good discussion. I've been furiously taking notes myself of all the just great things, great programs and strategies that you have in place. So any final questions? I'm looking at our chat now. If not, Scott and Courtney, any final words for our listeners?
Courtney, you want to start?
Okay. So I can start. So my biggest learning of all this, and I think if anyone was trying to replicate this work or begin the work themselves, if they're not in Ohio, is to not recreate the wheel. There are so many resources that even just in Ohio have already been created, and everyone wants to help. So looking to see what's already been created and not trying to duplicate it, or what programs in recruiting efforts have been created and done well that you can replicate. And so we're here to help provide technical assistance to help that expansion. And even something as simple as, so Columbus State has worked on an agreement to get equipment into the lab. And so not even having to replicate what that contract looks like and mirroring that. So simple things like that, where it's, a lot has already been done and we want to keep growing it and not starting back at day one.
Jonathan, I have two thoughts. One is I want to go back to your question about federal funding and what that looks like. We're at Columbus State. We're very much interested, as is Lorraine, I'm sure, in braiding that funding. Really none of that federal funding from a CHIPS perspective has been delivered yet, right? Columbus State is the lead on the workforce hub, the Columbus workforce hub. One of 5 workforce hubs across the country. And with that, we're looking to enroll 5,000 engineering technicians over the next 5 to 10 years. So the reason I bring that up is because that's going to take some substantial resources to do that. And, we've mentioned some of it: faculty, facilities, and equipment. And the collaboration and partnership from the local, state, and federal level is going to be necessary for us to make that a reality. And we have some great ideas and proposals on how to do that. And we're looking towards those partnerships. The second thing that I want to say is, if the listeners aren't familiar, there's a national group through NSF ATE called Micro Nanotechnology Education Center that is leading a nationwide effort with community colleges to build a talent pipeline for the micro nanotechnology sector. Obviously, semiconductor is one of those. I bring it up because if you go to the website I think it's, I should know what it is, MinTech, micronanotechnologyeducation.org. There's a section there that's talking technicians. In the first 6 months I was at Columbus State, transitioning from the automotive industry into what I'm now experiencing in the semiconductor industry. I learned a lot about what those roles are from listening to people that do it. And this Talking Technician podcast is a great way to learn about, how people got into the industry and just what it's about. And it's a great resource for those that are wanting to do what Courtney and I and our teams across the Ohio have been working on with Intel. So just wanted to mention micronanotechnologyeducation.org as a resource to go to look at what some of the other institutions across the country are doing. And the last thing I'll say is I want to emphasize the importance of community colleges in this work, right? We're going to deliver the return on investment from the federal, state, and local dollars in terms of creating the workforce that's needed for the semiconductor industry. And I think as this goes forward and we continue to figure this workforce talent pipeline out, I think community and technical colleges are going to play a pivotal role in the success of us to be able to deliver on that.
Yeah, well, a testament to both of your experience and what you're doing with community colleges and the value of what they're doing to support the talent pipeline for this industry and a lot of other industries. So really thank you for your time this afternoon. A lot of just great insights about the journey that you're on and continue to be on. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Have a wonderful fall weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.